Am I the a-hole for putting my brother on speaker and letting his fiancée hear about what he's been asking me to do? Context: I'm male 23 and what people call tech-savvy. I know like a bunch of stuff about computer programming and mobile software, and yes, I even got the right looks to match my skills. Lol. But seriously, I consider myself good since plenty of people come to me for help. For free, of course. So lately, my brother, male 27, has been asking me to install a tracking app on his fiancé's iPhone. Like, he had brought the phone to me twice, and I refused after he tried to pressure me to do it. He even offered money, but I refused because I felt it was kinda wrong. And also, I only help out people who only want to be helped, and like, don't have bad intentions. I refused because his fiancée doesn't deserve this. I thought he had dropped it after I told him that if he asked me again, then I'd tell her. Well, a couple of days ago, he calls me up while I was at my parents' home. His fiancée happened to be there too. I answer the phone and he brings up the tracking app again. I put him on speaker and be like, "Sorry, come again?" He says, "It's about the tracking app I want on fiancé's phone. I need you to do it tonight when I stop by with her phone." He proceeds to tell how he could no longer lie about her phone missing when he hides it and brings it to me. Basically telling me this was the last chance he's got to put the app there. My parents go silent, but his fiancée looked shocked, then goes off on him and then he hangs up. She grabs her purse and rushes out. My parents lash out at me asking what the heck I had done. I told them he refused to get off my back after I warned him. They cuss at me saying I just caused a huge problem between my brother and his fiancée, and stuff like that. I grab my stuff and leave shortly. Later, my brother was calling nonstop, and when I gave no response, he sent a nasty text calling me names and stuff, and saying that I might have just compromised his entire relationship. I haven't seen nor heard from my family nor him since then. I feel terrible, not gonna lie, and like I really messed up by putting a private convo on speaker. So guys, am I the a-hole? Note that this started right after his fiancée got a new job recently. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Technically, he compromised his entire relationship. And you warned him. Normally, I might say someone also sucked for interfering in the relationship, but absolutely not when it comes to such deceitful or even potentially illegal stuff. Not an a-hole. Yeah, after the first time, dude could have straight up went to the fiancée and told her and been not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. This is what I came here to say. He's trying to blame Opie as if he's not the one who started the whole thing. Playing the victim when he did it to himself. Opie specifically said to tell the fiancé. It's not Opie's fault his brother didn't believe him. Not only are you not the a-hole, you did not do something that you knew would be the wrong thing to do, even while facing pressure from your family to do it. That's really difficult. You saw a red flag and made sure a woman in a potentially vulnerable situation saw it too. By letting her hear the words from his mouth, rather than just letting her know what he was asking of you, you were able to sidestep the whole "who are you going to believe" question that might have arisen. You did good here, kid. To add from Harry Potter, it takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to our enemies, but just as much to stand up to our friends. I therefore award 10 points to OP. What you did wasn't easy. Bravo. Not a hole. I'd say it's even harder to stand up to the peer pressure of friends and family. OP should be proud of his backbone. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take down my daughter's graduation photo and replace it with my husband's graduation photo? My daughter 18 graduated high school, and I hung a photo of her graduation party on the living room wall. She wants to go to a community college and will live with me and her stepdad while doing that. My husband recently earned his master's degree, and yesterday he showed me his graduation photo that he framed and prepared to hang. I asked where we were gonna hang it, and he said the living room. I said, great. Right next to Amy's graduation photo then. He said not next to it, but instead of it. I was puzzled. I asked why, and he said that he didn't feel it was right having his graduation photo, a master's degree, be hung next to a high school graduation photo, a high school degree. He said that both photos have a different weight and value, and suggested I take my daughter's photo down and hang his instead. I was fuming because he refused to let her photo be hung anywhere near his. And by that, he has claimed the entire wall. I refused and said this photo has been here for months, and my daughter deserves to have it on display for encouragement. He got upset and said that I was making it a big deal, and could instead just use the hallway hall or something, but I refused. We had an argument about it, and he kept insisting on having her graduation photo be taken down and not be hung on the same wall as his due to difference in degree, value, and weight. And also, he thought that a high school photo isn't hang-on-wall worthy and called me inconsiderate of his feelings. He says it's disrespectful to him and his efforts, and said that I am choosing this hill to die on was ridiculous. Am I the a-hole for choosing this hill to die on? Not the a-hole. I'd hang it right over the toilet where his attitude belongs. Can you imagine the next time he sits down to take a dump and it's hanging on the back of the toilet door? That's what he gets for crapping an OP's daughter's achievement. Seriously? What kind of grown man with a master's degree is threatened by kids' high school graduation? The question OP needs to be asking is, why does my husband see my teenage daughter as competition? This is not healthy. Wow, has his masculinity always been this fragile? Not the a-hole. He has his moments, but this is certainly strange. Honestly, it sounds like a power move being made against your daughter, starting the exact moment she hits perceived adulthood and therefore independence. Is he against her staying with y'all during community college and potentially looking for ways to make her feel unwelcome? The one-time dad's temper wasn't anywhere near his norm. We also called it strange repeatedly. It was for a reason other than the norm as well. You can tell him I said this was my master's degree if he gets mad, received while also pregnant with hyperemesis and working. I only mention this since it's apparently a pissing match about weight and value or whatever. Alternatively, you can argue the weight and value of raising a good human to adulthood and through basic public education is heavier than a master's. The inherent value of my daughter is why my comment that's independent, says my degree shares space with school photos from kindergarten. Agreed it had something to do with her age. When I started becoming independent in my own person, and admittedly a lot like my dad, is when my stepdad stopped liking me and started to bully and isolate me from my mom. Not the a-hole. This could have been a lovely family achievement wall and your husband ruined it by being an a-hole. You're right, and this was my suggestion as well. I have a feeling that now that your daughter is 18, he wants all of the attention that she got because she's not his real daughter. And I'm betting on some resentment. And she's 18 now, so no more kid stuff to placate a child. As if she's no longer your daughter but some rando adult who doesn't need mom's love. Next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to be away from my twin sister? So I, 17 female, have two older brothers, 19 and 21, and a twin sister. I should mention that my family's pretty affluent. Ever since I remember, my parents encouraged me and my twin to compete with each other while they always favored her over me. She always had their support, and I was expected to be considerate. When I succeed on something more than she does, they ask me to give it up. But they never ask this from her. I do love her and my parents even though I feel like I've been treated unfairly. Both of us aspired to be doctors for a long time. I studied really hard for it for a long time, so did she. This year we graduated and both of us applied for the same programs at the same universities. The process here is quite different than it is in the US, as we can start med school right after high school if we get accepted. She wants to go to the same university as I do and so does my parents. I, on the other hand, feel like going on my own and have a separate life from my sister. I love her so much, but we've been together our entire lives. She's an introvert while I'm an extrovert, so she followed me around most of the time. I always included her and made sure she's happy, but it's been like this our entire lives, and I'm honestly tired. Not to mention that if we go to the same place, I would be expected to study with her and help her get high grades, and won't be able to study on my own and focus on my success. And my parents will be mad if I succeed more than her. It's been like this for the past 12 years, which will eventually hurt me. I just want to finally be a person of my own. This is where I might be the a-hole. I got accepted to 4 different universities while she got into 2. I waited for her to decide where she wants to go and then made my decision. Like I said, different place. Then she changed her mind and said she wants to go to her second option, the one I chose. I said that is not a problem, and I will go to a different place, the one she didn't get into. My sister got really offended and my parents are furious, even though I explained myself politely and said that I love her but wanted to get a fresh start where nobody knows me. They demanded that I will go to the same place as my sister, or else they won't pay for my degree. Then I said whatever and that I'll be fine on my own and left to my grandparents. When they came to talk to me, they just kept on saying how wrong and entitled I am. I really had enough, so I told them I hate them for treating me like this. Now I'm refusing to talk to them and ignoring their calls. My brothers and grandparents are on my side, but everyone else is telling me I'm an a-hole. So am I? Now for the comments. Not an a-hole. You have the right to choose what is best for you. You have a twin. That doesn't need to define you. If you feel like you need some time apart, then that is what you need. No one can blame you for what you feel. Your feelings are yours and yours alone. I would talk to your family though. Sit down at a table and have a, if possible, relaxed conversation. Tell them how you feel. Don't go screaming and say, "Hate you. You always put me up against my twin." Say instead that you feel like there has been favoritism, that you feel like it has been a constant battle. But most of all, you need time and space to be you. Just you. Not you and your twin. You are your own person. Tell your sister how much you love her and your parents too, but this is for yourself. Make sure that they listen. It might be hard, you might cry, but don't scream or shout. Tell them you love them a lot. Try it after dinner, when everyone has eaten and everyone is in a good mood. How they are going to react, that we don't know. But remember, you are in charge of your own reaction, but you cannot control theirs. Good luck. This sounds a lot like what Opie has already tried. From my understanding, and I might be wrong, she did it when she was angry and upset. Handling tough conversations when you are in a state of anger will make the point less obvious and redirect the conversations to the "I hate you" instead of the real facts. I actually explained it to them when we first applied to universities. They insisted that we'll try to get into the same place, and I agreed, but told them that while I'm sort of okay with this, I want to be on my own and have a chance to focus on myself. I believe I was polite, and I thought they understood me since they said that we'll discuss it later, but did not mention it until we got the answers. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for banning my sister-in-law's son from my house until she finds out what's wrong with him? For context, my 33 female husband and I host all our family gatherings. We have a 5-year-old daughter. The story also concerns my brother, 37 male, and his girlfriend Stacy, 37 female. Stacy has a son, George, 7, from a previous relationship. George has severe behavioral problems that became evident from the first time we met him. He's hyperactive, destructive, belligerent, nasty, and his mother can't manage him. Whenever his mother brings him to family events, we are all on high alert. He has to be watched constantly, especially around any other children and animals. We have not had an event with him present where at least one thing hasn't ended up broken. He will break plates, throw food, throw tantrums, screaming and swearing and flopping around on the floor, and more. It's exhausting to have him around, and frankly, the kid freaks me out. We all kept out of it because he's not our kid. He's not even my brother's kid, so it's certainly not our place. But our whole family knows there is something not right with him. Earlier this year, the family all visited us at our vacation home, and George was his usual self. The final straw was him using foul language and saying horrible things to my daughter. My husband stepped in, and a crying George played victim to his mother, and this caused an argument between my husband and me, and my brother and Stacy. I told Stacy we had absolutely had enough, and that her child of the corn would not be allowed back in my house until she found out what was wrong with him, and had a plan to manage his behavior going forward. At the time, everyone supported our decision because they all said it was high time Stacy recognized that George's behavior was not normal boys will be boys behaviors. We haven't seen them since the summer. About a week ago, we were all locking in plans for Christmas, which we planned to spend at a ski resort. Stacy texted me to confirm about plans, and I asked her what she had done about George. She said nothing official, but his behavior had been getting better. I told her nothing except some kind of diagnosis from a medical professional and a documented plan to mitigate his behavior would get him back in my house. Stacy has since been complaining to everyone that I'm discriminating against her child, claiming his behavior has improved. She has also accused me of thinking she's a bad mother because she works, and of disliking her and George because he is not my brother's child. None of that is true, but now everyone is saying that I should relent and let them come, on the understanding that she is responsible for any damages and will leave if he acts up. I don't want to bend on this because I don't want a drama-filled Christmas, or to have to be the bad guy and kick them out around the holidays with no other plans. Am I the a-hole? Edit. People were asking about the resort, so to clarify, we own a chalet in the resort, and the whole family will be staying at our chalet over the Christmas holidays. Not the a-hole, but I think requesting a medical diagnosis is a bit much. A behavioral plan is totally in order. The diagnosis doesn't matter so much, but the behavior does. She, They, if including your brother, has to be able to address his issues so people feel safe and property isn't destroyed. How will you handle tantrums? How will you handle inappropriate/rude language to others? How will you handle violating rules of physical space? Those are the areas she needs to answer. And if she doesn't have a plan or answer, then no, they can't come. His getting better is BS. Although I agree with most of what you said, gotta respectfully disagree about the diagnosis. A child with a learning disability, ADD, or a severe personality disorder all have to be approached differently. Whether with meds, behavioral therapy, or a combo of both, a diagnosis is required and very important. Sounds like the kid has either been severely spoiled or has a potential personality disorder that needs to be diagnosed. I'm aware PERS disorders are diagnosed at 18 plus. I misspoke as I couldn't find the right terms and got my wires crossed. That aside, Stacy needs to find the source of her child's behavior. Sorry I wasn't clear. I 100% agree the diagnosis is important to the mother and the child, but the rest of the family doesn't need to know what that diagnosis is, just that they have one and are working on treatment. And they have a solid plan for how to handle this child. I'm a parent of a neurodiverse person and we had tons of support and treatment and plans for situations like this. And a diagnosis at a young age. But in my humble opinion, the label is less important than the treatment plan and behaviors. But of course, you need a diagnosis to get there. Not the a-hole. I personally would cancel on hosting the whole family at a resort this Christmas, since everyone is pushing you to cave to Stacy. Make it a private holiday for you, dear husband and your daughter. Let your extended family make their own holiday plans and even host George in their homes. Am I the a-hole? I, 39 female, lied to my brother, 41 male, about my financial situation because I don't want to help him. My husband, 41 male, is a farmer while my brother works in IT. He and his wife, 41 female, always talk about his cute little farm and have never visited it or asked further questions about it. It's not exactly a cute little farm. It's rather two separate larger businesses with several employees which he manages, and in which he also both works manually, to get a break from paperwork he hates. There are also properties he is renting out. I never talked or explained any of that to my brother. He never asked, and both he and his wife have made several comments that showed he is looking down on my husband. Never to my husband's face though, if it helps. I am also cautious around my sister-in-law who has a bit of a spending problem, and my brother who always enables her. If you look from the outside, we seem like a normal middle-class couple. There is nothing fancy about our cars, home, or activities. So, things went to a head last year for the first time, got resolved and are bad again now. My brother and his wife own a home and have a kid, 4 female. Due to excessive spending, like 2 new cars per year, 5 vacations in star resorts each year, etc., they are financially in trouble. My brother asked me if I could help with the utilities or the mortgage, and told me he might lose his home. I lied and told him I wouldn't be able to. Mostly because of their comments about my husband, I didn't and don't want to help. Also, part of me thinks that if they sold their still brand new cars and would buy used ones instead, or even stop the constant vacations, there wouldn't be any problems at all, due to the amount he is asking for. I feel like an a-hole though, as A, it's not my place to judge where they put their money, and B, we could pay off their home and cars and it wouldn't even put a dent in our financial situation. But I still don't want to. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. My brother and his wife own a home and have a kid, 4 female. Due to excessive spending, 2 new cars per year, 5 vacations in star resorts each year, etc., they are financially in trouble. That's another reason not to help them. What makes you think they wouldn't just spend the money and come back asking for more? Not the a-hole. I'm actually sure they wouldn't change any of that. Just the way they talk about it being a necessity, while looking down on a lot of people. No one is entitled to your money. Tell them it's not in your budget, and that's it. Not the a-hole. I just realized how brilliantly simple this line is. Of course it is not in my budget. I don't have any budget allocations for brother's mortgage, or brother's 2 cars per year, or brother's vacations. So, it is not in my budget is always true. Not the a-hole. But rather than say I can't help you, I would feel very comfortable putting that back on them. How do you expect us to help when we just have a nice little farm? Didn't you take a really expensive vacation recently? Not the a-hole for not helping, but if you don't ever call them on their behavior, then the behavior won't change. Yes, probably. But every hint of criticism has been met with heavy pounding and blowouts, etc. It's just not worth the fight. We live on opposing ends of the country and only meet face to face during holidays. So I always thought that would not be worth the trouble. Not the a-hole. Even if you can't afford to loan money, it's a bad idea. I doubt it would be alone. His wife gives the impression that spending money is an Olympic routine she is competing in. In the past, there have been several minor instances where we paid for smaller items and they always forget to repay or chip in, etc. Even when we were invited to a restaurant, we ended up paying because they had an emergency / forget their wallet, etc. Yeah, I wouldn't enable this nonsense. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents they have to move out? I, 30 female, and my husband, 32 male, own our home. We bought it about 3 years ago, and it is our first home. We love our house. We are both introverted, and I have very bad anxiety, so having a nice peaceful home is an absolute must. We both work hectic jobs and I work nights, so our schedules can be very stressful sometimes and our home is our only chill space. We also have a daughter who is in school. About a year and a half ago, we asked my parents to move in with us. They were wanting to relocate and we were needing help with our daughter on the days she was not in school. The arrangement made was supposed to be that they would stay with us about 6 months while they found a place to live, and would watch our daughter when she was out of school in return. We were also promised that they would help contribute to groceries and bills and other household needs. This was all discussed in full before they moved in. Well, that was 1.5 years ago now. For the first 4 months, everything was going great. We all got along, they helped out, they respected our home, and it was really nice having them around. However, starting month 5 to 1.5 years, things have went downhill at a rapid rate. They do not help with anything around the house. Cleaning, dishes, bills, groceries, nothing. They also create chaos. My mom doesn't work in his home all day every day. Still, she will not watch our daughter, so we had to find another babysitter. When my dad is home, they sleep all day, and then are up all hours of the night cooking food for themselves, doing their laundry, taking showers, etc. They make so much noise that they end up waking our daughter up multiple times a night. We have had multiple conversations about them needing to find their own place, but they just ignore it or start yelling. Everything has gotten to a point where I am constantly anxious, having panic attacks, fighting a lot with my husband, and having to clean up after them like teenagers. It all came to a head on Thanksgiving, when my daughter asked a question and my mom started yelling at her. My husband got very mad and told them they need to move out and do it soon. My husband and I had been talking about 2 days prior about me finding a way to tell them to move out after the holidays. But after everything that happened that night, it all unfortunately came out on Thanksgiving. I think my parents expected me to go against my husband and tell them they can stay, but I stand with my husband. Our lives have been a mess for the past 1.5 years, and most problems have been rooted in stuff they did. I told them they have to move out and soon. So, am I the a-hole? I forgot to clarify that they are both in their mid-50s and of sound mind and body. Not the a-hole. They can have their own place to be as loud as they want, or they have to respect your agreement and boundaries. It's hard with parents, but at a certain age, the roles reverse. Actually, it happens over time, but you get the point. Sounds like you are at the beginning of the phase. Top comment is right though. They either have to respect you or leave. Not that elders don't deserve any kind of care, respect, or anything like that, but age doesn't give you permission for not respecting the boundaries of others, especially not when it can be so exhausting, like for OP. Not the a-hole for supporting your husband. A bit the a-hole for letting it go on this long. I let it go on this long because I didn't want to ruin the relationship with my parents. I can see how I am the a-hole though, because it caused a lot of stress on my marriage, and my husband doesn't deserve that at all. I believe you have the best of intentions, but what you're putting your own family through for the sake of your parents is quite unfair. I hope you get them out before this permanently damages your marriage. I totally agree. It is very unfair. My husband and daughter are my life, and no one comes before them. It took me way longer to open my eyes to what was going on than it should have. I swept issues under the rug to save myself stress, but in return, I put stress on my marriage and my husband and daughter. I am very aware of all of this now, and I'm trying to make sure my husband and daughter are not going to be put under any more stress from all of this. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not comforting my wife after my daughter told her she's not her mom? I have 3 children, 15, 11, and 3. My 35 partner, 28, and I have been together for 10 years. We have 50-50 custody of the 2 eldest. Nearly 4 years ago, we had a rough patch and a one-night stand is what led to my youngest being born. We've got full custody, but my wife is all she knows as her mother. All children call my wife their mom. She's a great parent. She got the eldest into gymnastics and swimming. She does their homework with them, and they're really close. It's nice to see. It's hard to explain exactly how she's a good parent. She just is. We found out we were expecting 8 months ago, and this caused our youngest to start acting out. Nursery teachers told us it was completely normal for young children to regress when big news happens. 7 months into our pregnancy, we lost the baby. It upsets me, but it's completely devastated my wife. She acts like everything's normal, but she's crying herself to sleep. I don't have the emotional bandwidth anymore. I'm exhausted. We just lost a child, not just her. I'd been trying to get ready for work while my wife got the youngest ready, and I guess we were having a rough morning because I heard my youngest tell my wife, "You're not my mom. You don't love me?" Obviously not exact wordings. It's not the first time she's told my wife this. We don't even know how the youngest knows this. I went to work, and when I came back, the eldest told us that my wife dropped the youngest off at nursery and then locked herself in our room, and apparently had been crying for a few hours then left. I messaged her and got told, "Thanks for helping me this morning. I'm staying at my mother's. I'm not in the mood to help with your child at the moment since you don't help me or tell her I'm her mother." Youngest deserves to know her background. We've tried to explain to her stepmother, etc., but she's young. She'll understand when she's older. I explained that I had work. She's handled it before, but I've been left on red. I apologized. Didn't realize she was so unhappy, but said that at the end of the day, youngest lost her sibling too, and it's been a difficult transition. We're looking into family counseling. I did say I'd appreciate her not having eldest witness her being this upset next time, as she's still a child. If I've left any info out, so I'll answer. Hands are greasy and it's hard to type. It was a casual morning. She usually handles getting them ready, and we've had issues like this before that she's handled. Honestly, sometimes hearing things like this has become white noise now, because I know my wife can handle it when I've got to work. Edit. The reason I say not to be as upset in front of my eldest is because eldest went to her biological mom and told her she was worried about her mom, my wife, which I don't think is fair. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Downplaying your cheating, and downplaying your wife's trauma, and blaming her for not being entirely composed after she had a late-term miscarriage? Have you always been so selfish and neglectful? Your wife is so obviously struggling with a serious depressive crisis, and you're just completely neglecting that. I'm wondering at all your other delightful behaviors. You're the a-hole. That's not even considered a late-term miscarriage. At that point, it's considered a stillbirth. She would have still had to give birth, which just adds more trauma. You're the a-hole. You had to work, and you don't appreciate having your eldest witness her being upset? You have got a lot of gall. She is raising your affair baby. She has lost her bio child, and your affair baby screaming at her about not being her mom and she doesn't love her. And the best excuse you can come up with is you had to work. And it's happened before, so no big deal? I noticed you used the phrase, "I guess we were having a rough morning." Nah, dude, you were having a fine morning, while your wife is getting screamed at by your affair baby. And you don't appreciate your eldest witnessing her be upset? Why not? Being upset after an emotionally trying day is completely normal. Maybe instead of lecturing her via text, you should ask what you could do to help. You should hope your wife forgives you. You should beg for forgiveness, because you don't sound like a very nice partner with the affair baby and telling your wife how she's allowed to act. Edit. Holy smokes. I just saw the comment about how y'all were only separated for a month when you got another woman pregnant. How in the hell did you manage to find this absolute saint of a woman and keep her this long? You may have lost her this time, and if so, you have only yourself to blame. It's not the children's responsibility to bear witness to their parents' moods. It's not their responsibility to be stressed about how their parent feels. And I'm sorry, I grew up in a household with a depressed dad, but I feel very strongly about my children not seeing that. And you don't appreciate your eldest witnessing her be upset? Why not? It's self-preservation, nothing more. He doesn't want his kids to realize what kind of trashy father they have, and all their problems in the family was brought home by him. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not giving anyone my earrings in my will? Context: when I was young, I was given a pair of handmade gold earrings from my grandmother. She died when I was 12. I still wear them to this day. So I, 30 female, have cancer. It's one of the most survivable ones, so I'm trying not to be too worried. To be on the safe side though, I decided I would update my will just in case something were to happen. I left the house to my husband, 30 male, and divided my money 3 ways to go to him, my daughter, 5 female, and my sister, 29 female. However, when my sister found my will, she was livid. That was because I had said that if I were to die, I would like to be buried with my earrings as they are very special to me. My sister said that she should get the earrings after I die to be close to me. I don't want to give it to her though. It was given to me as a gift and holds sentimental value. I even got my ears pierced again so that I wouldn't have to swap out the earrings. I told her that it was mine and she wouldn't get it, to which she ran to our mom. My mom is telling me to give it to her while I'm still alive, since my sister is already scared for me and doesn't need the stress. I don't want to, but I'm wondering if I'm the a-hole if I told her no. Am I? Added to clear some stuff up. 1. The earrings are not heirlooms. They were a gift made solely for me. 2. My sister did not like my grandmother. She even refused a necklace our grandma got her because she thought it was too ugly. 3. My daughter has many other earrings, necklaces, rings, and other jewelry I'm getting for her. 4. I'm thinking about finishing the other half-finished set and giving it to my daughter, but it's really expensive, so I'm not sure. 5. I have thyroid cancer, but luckily it was caught early, and I'm undergoing treatment, so please don't worry. Edit number 2. 1. My sister went snooping and found my will in my office. I was leaving her only $20,000 if I were to pass. 2. My daughter has way more money than my sister. She'll get $1.3 million after my death. I made it so that she wouldn't get the money too young and live a normal life. 3. My husband has a very good job. It makes $200,000 a year, so I'm not worried he won't be able to manage. 4. I am seriously considering removing my sister completely after her BS. 5. I don't talk to my daughter much about my cancer because I don't want her to think of me as sick. So we try to fill up her life with happy memories. 6. Again, my earrings are not heirlooms. They were made for me and me alone. 7. The house is going to my daughter. If me and my husband were to die, she'll be inheriting the house as soon as she turns 21. Your mom thinks it's more important to accommodate your sister than to respect the wishes of her possibly dying daughter? I would remove my sister from my will altogether if she pulled something like this. Our relationship would be permanently damaged. Not the a-hole. Edit: I don't get all the people telling Opie it's a waste to be buried with the earrings. Where's your empathy? She's a young woman who is dealing with the possibility of dying. That's horrendous. She's trying to cope with it, and it doesn't matter that it seems irrational to us. If planning on being buried with them brings her even a hint of comfort, it isn't a waste. You think her daughter wants to discover that her mom was pressured out of something that comforted her as she was struggling, so she could get a pair of earrings? Not the a-hole, and I'd tell sister, okay, I'm changing the will. You get nothing. Picking over my bones while I'm still using them is some rude nonsense. If I do decide to give the earrings to someone, they will go to my daughter. Either way, you aren't getting anything. This reminds me of the argument I use with my kid. Kid asks if he can have 4 cookies. I say no, he can have 2. He whines and wants 3. I say it can be 0. He then happily agrees to 2. Am I the a-hole for not congratulating my sister-in-law on her planned pregnancy and telling her she's making a mistake instead? My brother works as a car rental agent and his salary is not livable at all. His wife is a stay-at-home mom for their 4-year-old, so he's the sole provider. And he's been receiving a fixed sum from both my mom and other sister to keep things afloat. I also helped a few times when I could. Some time ago, my sister-in-law told me she wanted another child because she didn't want their son to be an only child and asked me what I think. I advised her against it and told her to either wait till my brother gets promoted or till she gets a job. I told her it would be realistically impossible to provide for another child when you're barely coasting by, and that she was still young, 27-year-old. I also told my brother the same thing. About 3 weeks ago, my brother calls me all happy and tells me his wife is pregnant. I told him, great, I wish you good luck, and soon hang up. I never called sister-in-law to congratulate her, nor went over to their place for the baby shower. Just told them I was busy. Yesterday, we had dinner at our parents' house and I inevitably met my sister-in-law. She told me, I'm pregnant, with an excited tone. I told her, yeah, I know. That's great. I wish you good luck. She then said, so that's it? I asked her what she meant and she said, aren't you happy for us? I told her my feelings are irrelevant here and their decision is up to them. She told me of course they matter and begged me to please honestly tell her what I think. So, I told her I frankly think you're making a mistake and this innocent child is going to suffer the consequences of your selfishness. You are not ready to care for another little life when you can't even pay your bills. How long do you think my mom and sister are gonna support you? She interrupted me and said, what the hell? That's none of your freaking business. I only ask you out of politeness, but you really didn't hold back at all. I told her, you're the one who told me to be honest. She said, I told you to be honest with me, not be a douche. She then called me an a-hole and went off to complain to my brother. I didn't want to entangle with them and just grabbed my purse and left. Sometime later, my mom calls me fuming and tells me I had no right to make any comment whatsoever. She said I should have congratulated them properly and left it at that. That, even if she was the one who asked for my opinion, I should have known better than to hurt her with those words. I also think my words might have been pretty hurtful and I went too far. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. This might be unpopular later, but not the a-hole. Maybe you should have been kinder or phrased it better. I don't know, because I don't know what you said, but she shouldn't be sheltered from the truth when she literally asked for it. We can go through life expecting family to cater to our feelings, but then their advice and opinions really mean nothing. Who wants to surround themselves with yes men saying whatever they want to hear? Personally, I value my dad's opinion more than others because I know he will be honest and call me out. She asked for your opinion, got mad when you gave it. Full stop. You are not the a-hole. Not only ask, but had previously heard OP's opinion/advice, then sought OP out and pressed the issue, as if to get validation for herself. What was she expecting here? Not the a-hole. You would have been if you had mentioned it when you first got a call giving you the news. But you didn't until she cornered you and told you to be honest, so you were. That's what I found interesting too, that she already knew OP's opinion, yet pushed her to give it again. It's like she either wanted to start drama or she was delusional in hoping that OP had changed her mind, even though none of their circumstances had changed. Not the a-hole. I never understand people who does not have enough money even for one person, and then they marry and make 2+ kids and they have no money. Some people lose their rational thinking capability when the topic comes to kids. If you cannot live with one wage with 3 people and you get support from the family, you cannot live with 4 people. Not the a-hole. Don't give them money anymore, even if you can't afford to do so. Yes, this exactly. Yeah, or at least don't give until brother picks up his second job and is looking to improve his lot and sister-in-law. And make it clear that all help will end if they have another kid. They need to feel the consequences of their choices before help can be considered, so they won't be tempted to do it again. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister nobody was interested in her PhD research? My sister, 34 female, and I, 31 female, come from a working-class family. Nobody in our family is higher than a high school education, save for us. I have a bachelor's and my sister is currently working on her PhD. Obviously, we're both proud of this, but my sister often brags to an extent that many in our family find uncomfortable or discouraging, and she talks down to people around her. When she began her program, she explained it in very technical terms that confused our aunt. When she was asked to clarify, my sister made a fuss about how it was so easy for her to understand, and she forgets that not everyone can wrap their heads around it. It's been an issue since she started her master's, and I've admittedly been at my wits' end with her for quite a while. I hosted Thanksgiving this year. When we were eating, my sister was asked about her research, and she went on a long, complicated spill about her work. She was missing context, pulling out every 10-cent word, getting super technical and under-explaining every concept. She talked for about 10 minutes straight, barely pausing for questions or comments. It dominated conversation. Eventually, I interrupted her and tried asking our dad about his work. My sister interrupted him and said she wasn't finished, then continued talking. I told her I was finished listening to her and that she could talk all she wanted but she'd need to do it in another room. She made some comments about my hosting and continued on. I stopped her again and told her that nobody was interested and she needed to be quiet, which she did. It was, admittedly, extremely awkward and quiet, and my husband decided to just plow on and make conversation with an aunt of mine. After that, conversation carried on as usual with my sister being very, very quiet. Afterwards, our parents scolded me for being rude but said my sister was being over the top. But I should have just let her talk. A few of our other relatives thanked me for cutting her off. Her fiancé called me yesterday morning and said I embarrassed my sister and made her feel ashamed. He implied I was jealous of her success and asked me to formally apologize to her. I said I'd apologize to her, but I wouldn't mean it, and he hung up on me. I've thought it over and I can see how my approach was wrong, but I genuinely did not see any other option at a time. Always willing to learn though, and seeking a new perspective. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister nobody was interested in her PhD research? Everyone sucks here. Your sister needs to know how to explain her doctoral work to a lay audience, if she has any hope of passing her dissertation committee. She also needs to learn how to craft an elevator sentence. She also needs to learn how to take a hint gracefully. You, on the other hand, need to stop being jealous of her success. Conscious of it or not, jealousy and resentment oozes out of this entire post. Regardless of how long she droned on and how rude it was for her to stop you from talking with your dad, the general core of this post isn't really centered on that, but your overall worldview on her academic career. Also, I hope the sister continued to brag about her PhD research, so other girls know that they can also get a PhD. Females should not be shy about their achievements. My problem is that she has never been this supportive of my achievements. She tells me constantly we aren't on the same level, and assures me it's okay, but makes backhanded remarks about my intelligence and level of education. I think it's great she's getting a PhD and I'm glad she's proud of it, but that pride doesn't need to be at everyone else's expense in my opinion. Then you need to correct her. She's your sister. Should be easy to say. What you just said is insulting and hurts my feelings. Please learn to be more tactful. I'm an especially frank person. My sister dyed her hair red one time and asked me how it looks. And I said I don't like the red, and it makes her look like the Wendy's girl. And she responded with, I am looking for compliments, and not criticism to make me feel bad. Now I know to lie and say, it's not bad, if I hate it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling every morning? My son is a 20-month-old toddler. My wife is a stay-at-home mom. I work 6 days a week and I'm usually gone for 12 hours a day. I always check in on my son remotely via our nursery cam app, and is always awake in the morning around 8. He has a great sleep routine. Our wind-down time starts at the same time every evening. We clean up toys, read a book. When I lay him down, he's still awake. He falls asleep on his own and sleeps all night for at least 12 hours. It's usually after 9 before I have a chance to check the camera. This morning, when I checked, it was 9:12 and some mornings are closer to 10. Every time I look though, he's always in the dark and standing in his crib just waiting. When I see this, I immediately turn on the brightest night light the camera has and speak to him through the camera app. I always tell him good morning and I love him, and he usually laughs and says dada. Then, I leave the app, call my wife to wake her up. I usually have to call 3 to 4 times, and when she finally answers, it's obvious that she just woke up. And only because I called. I tell her that our son is awake waiting for her and that she needs to get up to start their day. This morning while on the phone, I asked her if she was going to get him after using the bathroom, and she said no. She was going to the kitchen to prepare their breakfast and then she'd get him. I asked her to get him after the bathroom so he could go to the kitchen with her, and she flipped out. She told me it angers her that I call every morning to tell her how to be a mom and that she has a routine. I retorted with, well, your routine sucks because he's been awake for an hour and you'd still be asleep if I hadn't called. It just bothers me that he has to wait so long. He needs a diaper change. He's probably thirsty, hungry, and just wants to play. Am I wrong though? Do I need to stop? Please be completely honest with your answers. Thanks. Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. I cannot imagine being a micromanaged mom like that. Remotely. Wow. Is your son crying? No? Then it's fine. If he's uncomfortable, he will call for his mom. The kid is not going to cry if it's been normalized that he needs to wait in his crib for 1 to 2 hours. Not the a-hole. Totally agree with this. 1 to 2 hour wait is just sad. I hated reading this post. Your wife is a negligent mother. It is sad, not the a-hole. She sounds lazy. Or like she has postpartum. You're the a-hole. Firstly, let's start with the fact that your kid is now into toddler range as opposed to infant. Your kid can manage a few moments alone in their crib and will still cry if they need any worthwhile attention. Secondly, let's say she took the toddler with her while preparing the food. Your kid is now learning escape methods. Getting into crap, cause mischief stage. Let her get the food ready first. Thirdly, best intentions aside, if my husband was micromanaging my mothering, I'd blow a gasket from stress alone. Moms need what sanity remains to us, especially before entertaining a toddler for hours. Fourthly, there was zero indication of why you thought your son was up for an hour, which makes me think it wasn't necessarily true so much as you just wanted to add spice to the insult you slung at your wife. You chose her to be the mother of your child. Now let her do her job in peace. He clearly states that his son usually is awake by 8, and mom doesn't come get him until past 9, sometimes as late as 10. That's not a few moments. Last story. Am I the a-hole for storming out of my wedding reception after sister-in-law's speech? I, 26 male, got married to my wife, 32 female this weekend. The ceremony went great and the reception was going well. Just after we ate, my father-in-law and best man spoke, then my sister-in-law. All was going smoothly until she brought up an awful time in my life. A little background. During COVID, I lost most of my savings on the business I had unluckily opened in October of 2019. I was also dealing with bad gastrointestinal problems and horrible IBS. I felt horrible, like I had no hope, and getting my life back in order would take forever. Friends who had been a part of my business left due to the failure, and others due to the medical problems. My fiancé was the only one who supported me and gave me hope. She helped me rebuild my self-esteem and eventually my business, and I cannot thank her enough. When I was at my lowest, I wrote an emotional note about these feelings and went into detail about all the horrible things I felt both emotionally and physically. I also wrote about how she was my strength and kept me afloat. I told my wife about writing my thoughts but never showed her the note. Midway through sister-in-law's speech, I saw her unfold this dreaded note and start to read it to the audience. Not just the part about my wife, but a full paragraph before it, where I described how hopeless I felt and the details of my darkest moments from my toughest battles with IBS. I was so embarrassed. My sister-in-law started to cry as she got through the part about my wife and went on to say she never knew how bad it was, but knew our love would overcome anything. I got red in the face, stormed out to the back of the venue and lit up a cigarette, which I haven't had in years. Some family members ran out, but I told them I needed to be alone. I came back after a bit. Everyone was eating and dancing, but I was still getting stares and I just felt horrible. My wife comforted me, but we didn't really talk it through since she was entertaining family and whatnot. After the party, I brought it up with my sister-in-law. I told her I felt violated that she would somehow get a hold of that note and not only read it, but share it with everyone. I said it hurt because the memory of the wedding certainly felt tainted by the speech and my reaction. She told me she wanted to share a beautiful image of our love. I didn't see anything wrong with it. That it reminded her of when her smoothie business failed and it gave her hope. She even told me it was a toxic coping mechanism to repress those feelings and be ashamed of them. I felt like the conversation was going nowhere, and we didn't speak for the rest of the night. It hasn't helped that distant family and friends have been recommending IBS treatments to me. My wife agrees with me, but thinks sister-in-law had good intentions. I told her she's an a-hole regardless for not even checking with me. Sister-in-law hasn't reached out to apologize yet. And I heard from mother-in-law she thinks I'm overreacting and trying to villainize her. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I am trying to respond to each one as soon as I can. Just want to say here that my wife did not know where the note was. I never even told her specifically about the note, just that I like to journal my thoughts and feelings. Info. Why are you not more concerned with where sister-in-law would have gotten the note, if not from your wife? Who else even knew about it? This. Sounds like the wife was in on it, which is why she's going on about sister-in-law's good intentions. Sorry about the late response. I replied to another comment earlier, but it may have moved to the bottom. My wife did not know the note existed, only that I journaled my thoughts during those dark times. I do have a theory though. Too much info warning. My IBS usually fluctuated a lot. During the times of constipation, I found that nicotine and coffee made me go. Weird, I know, but whatever works. As I tried to quit cigarettes, I started smoking more THC hemp/weed. We live in a legal state, with some tobacco mixed in to help with bowel movement. I used to journal when I smoked, and usually kept my notes in my little weed bag. I had a sneaking suspicion sister-in-law's a smoker too, and maybe she found a bag. I haven't touched the bag since I got a new e-cigarette electronic THC pen last year, so I wouldn't have noticed anything missing. I'm sure the note could have fallen out too since we reorganized our house this summer, and a lot of things got mixed up. Just a theory. Okay, so not only did your sister-in-law publicly humiliate you at your own wedding, but it's very likely she roots through your private possessions and straight up just steals things from you? There's a lot of boundaries being violated here. She clearly doesn't respect you, your privacy, your property, or your consent. She's unquestionably in the wrong, and you probably shouldn't let her in your house or have access to anything else you own. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my brother or his family? I, 24 female, have recently bought my own home. Mom insisted I invite my brother, 40 male, and his family over to celebrate. For background, my brother hasn't amounted to anything in his life despite my parents supporting him through their financial highs and abysmal lows. I remember when he found out he wouldn't be getting any inheritance from my parents, and the rest would be divided up between my nephew from his first marriage and myself, because according to my parents, we have both done something with our lives, while his bad decisions have left him in a rent trap and a massive amount of unnecessary debt. I want to also mention that for a long time, my parents barely managed to keep a roof over our heads and asked that my brother help make ends meet, which he later admitted he only did because he thought it would be worth it when they die and he inherits the place. Fast forward to last night, and I am showing them around. It's a big place and a little fancy, I will admit, but I know I deserve the life I have now. Because throughout my teenage years, I had to give up my scholarship money to help pay off his debts, my free time and study time to look after his son, and I even had to drop out of high school because I was skipping class to work. That's how bad things were. But I went to a trade school and got 3 diplomas in engineering and programming before finishing my degree 2 years ago, all while juggling a full-time job so I could have experience on my resume when I graduated. After dinner, my brother found me on the balcony and I had to pretend I wasn't hiding from him. He started asking about what my plan was, now that I had a house and very little of the mortgage left to pay off. I was honest and said I was probably going to work abroad, travel and save for retirement. He asked me where it all goes when I die, and I told him his son, since he's hardworking and deserves it the most. He got angry and asked why not him and his family, to which I told him that I had no interest in leaving anything for his family because he has no interest in me and our parents aside from what he can get from us. His wife came in screaming, calling me selfish for not helping my brother and my very own niece, to which I replied, I'm going to tell you the same thing you'll hear from your landlord when you no doubt fail to make rent for the 3rd month in a row. Get out of my house. Mom heard this and yelled at me, before saying we both ruined what was supposed to be a lovely night. His wife said my elitism and selfishness ruined the night, and not them for asking for a little help, since I clearly could. Or at least pay for their daughter to go to a private school and secure her future. She's 3. After they left, Mom said I should at least consider helping, and that he can't help the situation that is in. I told her that if she really doesn't see why that's a bad idea, then she should leave as well. And now either of my parents are answering my calls. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. I don't understand why the 40-year-old brother thinks he's going to outlive OP. Not the a-hole. If anything, he owes you. He is diagnosed with strong narcissistic traits. Plus, he likes to think and act like he is much younger than he actually is and often lies about his age. Or, hear me out, he has literally contemplated getting rid of you. What he said was creepy AF. I would be going very, very low contact with him if at all. Not stay home. I find it odd that your parents, having learned the lesson themselves that your brother is a leech, are now asking you to take over the burden of subsidizing him. My parents planned to have me so that my brother would not be alone when they died. My guess would be that they don't like how their unfair parenting has ruined any chance of us having a meaningful bond. I think if I gave in and helped him, then they'd interpret it as us being a real brother and sister, instead of what it would actually be, his sister pitying him. Not stay home. Why is your brother thinking about an inheritance from you when you're younger and will likely outlive him? Safety-wise, don't leave anything to him. Who knows if he would hurt you to get that money, Why should you pay for anything for your nieces and nephews? They aren't your kids. Their costs are your brother's problem. Now, if you want to open accounts to help them because you care for them, then do that. But make sure your brother and his wife have zero access to it. And if you don't want to do that, then don't. They're the one that choose to have kids, not you. It's not your problem or responsibility. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to see my baby half-brother after the way my stepmom and dad treated me? Hi, I have divorced parents. I currently live with my mom and my mom's boyfriend, but my dad lives with his new wife that we will call Eve. Eve and I have never been close, to be honest. Last year, on July, she wrote a 400-word paragraph to my mom on how much she despises me and doesn't like the fact that I visit, even though I do not visit to see her. I only visit to see my dad and my great-grandma who lives with them and absolutely have no interest in her. Not only that, but she has set up rules my dad has to follow. And she made a list of things that I found she once done before her birthday. She basically manipulates my dad, and I'm very sure she uses him for money. Anyway, now my relationship with my dad has been torn apart because of her manipulation. For example, my grandpa had a 70th birthday that I only found out because a relative had posted it on their Facebook. That I had no clue of, even though they both went to it and didn't even notify me. Plus, the worst part is that they had a wedding that also I only knew about through relatives' Facebook post. Turns out my stepmom only wanted to invite important people, even though I am her husband's daughter. I was pretty angry by that, but a real shocker came when she got pregnant. She nor my dad said anything about it too, and I only found out through my grandma. Then this summer, my half-brother is born. To be honest, I had no reaction, but still congratulated them because I am not a rude person. Now here comes the part I am still mad about. I asked if I could visit my dad, and turns out my stepmom wrote a response. I realized it by the way the message was written, which basically said that no strangers are allowed at the moment. I got angry. I am not nobody's daughter no more, and a stranger? So when a while later they invited me to see my half-brother, I just left them on read. And I haven't replied since, and it has been 2 weeks. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Good lord. Tell your dad to grow a freaking spine. I would have said grow a pair, but apparently he has 2 children now. His new wife has them in her purse. Yep, good luck getting those out anytime soon. He gift wrapped them for her. Best to just pretend you don't have a dad and move on. It seems like this is all the step monster, but your father is allowing her to write and deliver these manifestos and they're not standing up for you. You deserve better. Not the a-hole, and I'd tell your mom to go to court to increase financial support since you are no longer spending any time with your dad. If he tries to fight it, tell the court you feel unsafe around his wife. Show them the messages she sent to you and your mom, and therefore would need your dad to make arrangements to only have you when she isn't around. My mom was forced to sell her house, which is worth approximately $800K, to my dad for about $30K because everyone thought my mom was the bad guy for divorcing my dad. And everyone was on his side. Plus, my mom tells me sometimes he doesn't even pay child support or pay the mortgage for the house. I wish was lying about this. Even more reason to take him to court. He owes her back pay plus would probably be ordered to pay more since he has no physical custody of you anymore. The courts can and frequently will garnish his wages or even his tax refund, if in the US, to ensure the support gets paid. Not the a-hole. You didn't share your age. But it sounds like unless there is court-ordered visitation, you're probably old enough to cut ties with your dad. Tell him exactly why, so he fully understands the damage he has allowed his wife to make. I'm 14, nearly 15. I was a bit scared my post would be terminated because of my age, so I just didn't post it. I hope that makes sense. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking him and his 12-year-old daughter out over spilled water? I started seeing a guy 2 years ago, and I thought things were going well enough to entertain the idea of living together, but we decided to do a trial run first to see if it could work, because we both have children and busy schedules. He has full custody of his one child, 12 female named Becca. I have 2 sons, 8 and 5, also having full custody. We gave this trial run a month, as that is when his lease went up anyways. The kids get along great, but everything else is spiraling and I feel like I'm losing my head. I don't know what is going on, but Becca lies like a rug about the stupidest things. She takes no accountability for anything she does, and if you call her out on it, she immediately goes into full-blown sob story about why she lies. Like, I just feel like the stupidest kid ever and that's why I lie all the time. And it's truly stupid things. Like she was painting her fingernails in the den after we told her to do it in her room. My son has asthma and can't handle the smell. And she will dead center stare you in the face and say she wasn't painting her nails, even though the nail polish is sitting right in front of her. Or when she doodles on the walls, and this is rental, with her makeup, and then lies and says it wasn't her. She will actually yell at you if you catch her and scream, "What? I didn't do anything," before you even say anything to her. She has even ripped holes in the mattress I gave her. Then there was today. My peace is beyond disrupted at this point already, so I find myself constantly having to micromanage a lying 12-year-old and make sure she isn't destroying my property. Well, today she puts my youngest up on the counter, he's 5, and turns on the faucet. She then starts splashing him and whatever else. I see it on the motion camera and go running downstairs, and there is easily a half-gallon water covering my kitchen floor at this point. All my mail is drenched, my car key fob is now busted from water damage, etc. I tell them both to get to their rooms and go decompress in the bathroom, only to find that the 12-year-old had destroyed that room as well. She had just taken a shower. Water all over the place, and seeping into the hardwood floor because the floor mat is drenched. She dumped out all mine and my son's shampoo and left it in her teapot still in the tub. I lost it. I called her father inside and said they need to leave. This is not worth it to me as I feel like I'm losing my mind. He says I'm being pathetic over spilled water, when in all actuality, it's his kid destroying my house in peace. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole and wow. He said, "You are pathetic? Holy turd balls. What an awful parent and partner. Good thing you did a trial. The kid needs therapy. The kid needs discipline, consequences, and adequate parenting more like. Not the a-hole. You're making the right call for yourself and your child. His lack of parenting is abysmal." He said she has always been like this, and that her therapist says it's just her way of working through things. Therefore, never steps in and does anything. Well, at least we know where she gets the line from, because a therapist would not say that, nor would they tell him to just let her keep doing it. Not stay home. At 12, she's way too old to be destroying things for fun and blatantly lying about it. If she was 5, I'd say you just need to work on setting better boundaries/clear consequences. But it sounds like this girl knows exactly what she's doing, and her dad is enabling and minimizing this behavior. Becca has problems, and your boyfriend clearly isn't going to do anything about it. Definitely don't make this move permanent. If I were you, I'd reevaluate this whole relationship. I thought this. I also initially thought her actions might be intentional and coming from a place of resentment towards the OP. If her dad is full custody, maybe she feels as though a mother figure has been replaced and a change in environment has stressed her out. But after reading OP's response, the dad has excused the behavior by saying her therapist claims this is the child's way of dealing with things and to leave her to it. No therapist would suggest this, and I doubt her dad has even taken her to one. She's old enough to understand the consequences of her actions, and it's clear the dad hasn't disciplined her, taken her to a behavioral therapist, or parented her correctly. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she's a divorced mom? A bit of background. My sister has been divorced from her ex-husband for the last 3 years, and they have 2 children. They have joint legal custody and nearly equal parenting time, though he has 2 days a month more than she does because of her work schedule. He makes a lot more than she does, and even though he has more parenting time, he pays her child support, covers their children's insurance, and pays for their private school. From what my sister has told me, financially, the divorce was good for her. They actually get along very well for exes and has been great with our family. We always get invites to things like birthday parties and such. I'm sure someone will ask the reason they got divorced. And according to my sister, she wasn't happy and wanted out. Nobody has accused the other of anything bad, but my sister is a handful. She started dating as soon as they separated, while it took him a lot longer. But I don't think there was any sort of affair or partner in waiting. Now, back on Father's Day, a mutual friend made a charming post about her late ex-husband. What a great dad he was, and how her kids miss him. I made a nice comment and scrolled on. Later, another friend made a crap post about moms having to do everything due to absent dads. I don't know who the person was with the first comment, but there was several who joined in, including my sister. I normally just scroll on in these sorts of situations, but my sister said something to the effect of her being a single mom and joined in on the crapping on dad's fest. It angered me, so I replied to her that she was completely tone deaf, that she needed to delete her comments. True to her norm, instead of saying whoops and deleting her comment, she fired back. So I told her that she's not a single mom. She's a divorced mom with an ex-husband who's very involved, has the kids more than she does, and pays for everything. Not long after, the OP deleted the whole crap show. I let it go, but then come to find out my sister is mad at me. I get it if her claim was I don't know the real situation and her ex is really some sort of monster, but she's just mad that I called her out on Facebook and diminished her by saying she wasn't a single mom. Okay, I'm going to say not the a-hole on this, and I'm fully prepared to get downvoted. But personally, I agree with you, and it annoys me as well. Technically, your sister is single relationship-wise, and a parent, so there is that argument. But when people traditionally think of a single mom or dad, they think of someone parenting on their own, with no help. If you have an active ex, you aren't alone. In fact, you get even more breaks than married moms. True, you are on 24/7 when you have the kids, but you get entire weekends off or even the whole week. Married parents don't get that. We have friends that are truly single parents, and her claiming to be in the same category seems wrong to me. I was raised by a truly single parent. My dad died, and I have a hard time when divorced parents say they're single parents in situations where both parents are involved. Not stay home. It might have been better handled in private. But sometimes people need to be questioned and held accountable for what they are saying publicly. From everything you mentioned, it seems like her ex is a caring parent, and she should not be telling others differently if it is not true. If she was talking trash on her own thread, I would have let it go, but not on someone else's who was lamenting the loss of her ex and her kids missing him. Not stay home. Your sister sounds like my ex-sister-in-law. She walked away on a marriage/kid because, and this is in court documents, she didn't feel like being married with a kid anymore. She's been a drama queen and liar ever since the divorce. Good for you for putting her in her place. That's your niece/nephew's dad she is, apparently, lying about for pity points on social media. To hell with her. She admits her ex is a great guy. She just didn't love him. Given her combative nature, it was probably fairer for her to end the marriage than just going through the motions. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my parents to adopt my ex-fiancé? My female 24, ex-fiancé male 24, and I were together for 7 years. He proposed last fall and we mutually decided to break up in May. He's always gotten along incredibly well with my parents, especially my father. They always treated him like he was one of their children, and my parents have always told him he's part of the family. For example, he started coming on family vacations with us when we were 17. It was a very tough decision to end our relationship, but we both agreed it was for the best. He moved out while I finished up our lease term. His plans fell through last minute, and he moved in with my parents for a little while finding a new place. Obviously, I felt a little weird about him moving into my childhood bedroom and being at my parents' house a fair amount. It led to lots of awkward interactions, but we got past it. He moved out at the start of August, and I thought that was that. But last night, my parents invited me over for dinner. They sat me down and explained that since the wedding was off, and my ex-fiancé wasn't going to be part of the family by marriage, they wanted to adopt him. They asked him last week and he agreed as long as I'm okay with it. I'm definitely not. I told them that I'm not really comfortable with that. And they started telling me that I'm keeping them away from their son. And that I need to tell him that I'm okay with it so that we can all be a real family. I'm worried I'm being an a-hole because they have cared so much for my ex over the years. I'm also worried I'm being selfish by worrying about how to explain this to future partners. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your parents are weird. Not the a-hole, OP. Lol. My first thought was it's totally cool for parents to love their kids' significant other like their own. But your parents are beyond weird, OP. Reading this post made me feel like I walked through a cave full of hallucinogenic mist. They what? They want to adopt a grown man, your ex-fiancé no less, so that he remains part of the family? Not the a-hole, hun, but I think your parents need a psychological evaluation because that idea is super crazy. If OP doesn't have any brothers, they may have seen him as the son they never had. And depending on the relationship he has with his parents, he may have reciprocated. I do actually have a younger brother. He's going to university in another country and doesn't visit home very often. My ex's mom passed when he was young, and his dad remarried and is much more invested in his new family. I'm surprised he agreed, but haven't had a chance to actually talk to him about it. Not a-hole. And your parents are freaking weird for even thinking this is an acceptable thing to do. Seriously, this one is a hill to die on. Your parents need to decide whether you are family or he is family. But it's crazy to think that they can have both, simply because they like the dude. For real though, I would tell my parents if they went through with this, they would gain a son but lose a daughter. They should actually be starting to distance themselves from him now that the relationship is over. But instead, they went way into the opposite direction to BSC ideas. Next story. Am I the a-hole for giving my mother a house on the condition that my brother and his family do not come to live with her? My 45 female mother, 76 female, is a very simple person. My father abandoned us when the youngest was 6 months old, and my mother was never the same mentally. I have a good financial condition. I try to help as much as I can with the groceries and bills. But it is very complicated because my mother refuses to come live with me and remains in the terrible house that my father gave her in the divorce. My brother, my sister-in-law, and their 3 children, 13 male, 9 male, and 5 female, live in the house at the back. And the house was tiny with a big yard. My brother built his house in the back and made the house even smaller. And he uses my mom as a free babysitter to take care of the kids he had. Not to mention the dogs he adopted and never paid their food, and several times their children go to eat at my mother's house. Keep in mind that my mother receives a low income in retirement. That is only really enough for her to support herself. I've been saving money for more than a decade to buy her a house and I finally got it. It is a simple house with 1 bedroom and bath with a big yard with a garden. Perfect for her. I talked to her and she agreed with me that it would be better for the house to be in my name, because I know my brothers and what they are capable at any given opportunity. But it would have a lifetime usufruct clause for her only. I warned her that I didn't want my brother to move with her, but in return she wouldn't have to worry about bills and food anymore, as I would help. She looked relieved. I told my brother at her request. She was next to me. And he said it would be difficult to accommodate everyone, but that eventually he would help expand the house to house everyone. I saw the despair on my mother's face, so I just made it very clear that the house was for my mother and not for them. He started to say yes, but said he could help with the bills or food, and that his and mother's house was too bad for a family of 5. I said no, that mother accepted the gift knowing that he wouldn't live there, and that due to their history I wouldn't trust him to pay the bills. He doesn't pay my mother, and I wouldn't be paying for 5 people. He started calling me selfish and that I was an a-hole to give a gift on condition, knowing how bad my mom's house is and that she obviously has no other option to accept. He said I was purposely harming him and making him out to be a monster. My mom is more relieved to get out of the house, but my brothers are calling me an a-hole even more because the house is in my name. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You're saving your mom from your mooch of a brother and he's just being spiteful because you're doing so in a way that he cannot exploit. Opie should also have a written agreement done by a lawyer. That way in the event Opie was to go on vacation or business trip and couldn't take his mom, that agreement would prove as evidence that his brother isn't allowed to move in or do any modifications to the house. Not the a-hole. However, if you haven't already, you should consider consulting an attorney to have a plan to enforce keeping your brother out of your mother's house. I should say your house because you're the owner, fortunately. That way, if it tries to step over the line and invade her space, your property, you can take action. And make sure you let him know you have consulted a lawyer and there will be consequences if it does anything improper. Maybe get power of attorney from your mother if anything should happen to her. Not the a-hole. And you think what your brother says about a house for your mother only is important. Why? Your brother has long been imposing himself and his family onto your mother. He spends money that is not his and largely supports his family with the help of her old house and you paying some of the expenses. He's even taking advantage of you to help raise and keep his dogs. What you should care a wit's edge about what he thinks of you is beyond me. Okay, he's your brother, but he's also a free rider on your money and your mother's. I don't know what a usufruct is, unless it is a legal way to keep your brother and his family from moving in and taking it over. You definitely need an attorney to draw up legal papers that you and your mother would sign that would keep him doing that all ever. He has a bad record. He took over your mother's house and stole part of his family's support from you and your mother. You owe him nothing. Do whatever it takes to keep him from moving in at his leisure after your mother does. He sounds like the kind of person who is constantly thinking of how things can turn in his direction. I bet even now he's scheming to move there in spite of what you and your mother said to him. You need something legal and forceful to keep him out, and be willing to enforce it if you must. My heart hurts for your mother. She deserves a quiet, livable house with expenses that she can afford, just like what you have given her. This clause prevents me from expelling my mother from the house. She is free to manage as she wants until her death. But there's the condition that my brother doesn't move into the house. Yes, legal papers are being made. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my child's college fund to my stepson so he can go to college? I, female 43, am married to my husband Neil, male 46. We've been married for 2 years and together for a total of 5 years. We have children from previous relationships. I have my daughter Grace, female 20, and Neil has a daughter and a son, Lola, female 23, and Alex, male 18. When I was pregnant with Grace, my late parents generously set aside a college fund for her. It has been placed in a bank account under my name, and it's up to me to give the funds to Grace. There was a change of plan. Grace decided she didn't want to go to college and instead got a job as a real estate agent through a friend in the industry and doing a full-time 5-month training course. She now makes decent money. Neil has been pestering me about the college fund lately as Alex wants to go to college to pursue a degree in criminology. He said I should give the college fund to Alex instead, since Grace doesn't want to go to college anyway, so she doesn't need the money. I'm unsure as to what to do with the college fund because my parents only wanted the money to go to Grace, on the condition that she uses it to go to college. I told Neil no, and he got really offended and said that my decision isn't fair on Alex. I'm considering giving the money to Grace anyway, so she can use it to put towards a house. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Neil and I have a prenup. So if we were to divorce, he would not be entitled to anything. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. That money was specifically left for Grace. Indeed. Not to mention Grace might want to use the money for a house like OP stated, or to pursue college or any other professional education she might want/need. At the end of the day, that money was set aside by your parents for Grace, OP. Not the a-hole. Also, am I the only one who thinks it's weird to ask for a college fund money like this? No, you're not the only one. But I've seen in my own family how weird people get where money is concerned. Everyone seems to think they are entitled to family money somehow. Not the a-hole. He has, presumably, had a son for at least 18 years now. What was his plan originally for Alex's college? I mean, it's not like it's surprise. Your kid at 18 wants to pursue higher education in a society that damn near freaking demands it. Neil's being obtuse at best, and a lazy money grubber at worst. Not the a-hole. It's Grace's money from her grandparents. If she's not using it for college, give it to her for her house, or to start her own kid's college fund. It's not your money. You're just a steward. This is what angers me about these types of posts. Why is it that the step-parent, usually recent step-parent, is somehow the one responsible for paying for college instead of the bio parents? Not the a-hole. Your parents gave that money to invest in Grace's future. They reasonably thought that meant college, but other activities such as classes, real estate conferences, or helping Grace at some point set up an office are all investing in her future. This needs more upvotes. I absolutely agree that even if the money doesn't technically go to college, investing in her future was the point. She basically did a sort of trade school and got specific schooling for that career, and she is doing well. Giving her a down payment on a house or an office space would be just as beneficial to her future as college, which is overpriced and not worth it if you don't need it. Not the a-hole. It's not your money. It's more or less money that you hold in trust for Grace's education. Since Grace decided not to pursue college, you need to decide what your parents would have wanted you to do with the money in these circumstances. Give it to Grace anyway to fritter away as she pleases? Hold on to it in case Grace does eventually decide to go to college. Hold on to it and put it toward Grace's potential children's educations. But it's not yours to give to your husband's children. This is a great answer. I have a strong suspicion that use it for your new stepson's education would not figure in OP's parents' thinking. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not exempting my daughter from our no Wi-Fi rule when she claims she needs the internet for homework? 43 male, I have 3 children. Vivian, 17 female, Annabelle, 8 female, and Lucas, 8 male. My wife and I have a rule that from 7 p.m. to 8 a.m. on weekdays and 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., 7 p.m. to 8 a.m. on weekends, the Wi-Fi goes off. Because we don't want them staring at screens all day. Sophie and I had fun with our imaginations as kids, and ours can do the same. School started the last week of August for Vivian, and she has become extremely combative with the no Wi-Fi rule. She keeps pushing her limits about using the Wi-Fi during the off hours, because she always claims she have homework. I have had to take away her phone because we've got Vivian using some kind of phone app that gives her computer Wi-Fi. She's constantly angry and claiming she needs it for homework. I'm highly doubtful that she has so much homework so often. When I was in high school, we didn't even get homework until October. I was able to finish my homework in 20 minutes, and I certainly didn't need all weekend to do it. Vivian needs to learn how to get it done faster. She's taking too long, and she needs to start hurrying up with her homework now, because in college, she will receive far more work and have much less time to complete it. Vivian got very angry on Friday because she said she needed the Wi-Fi again and there was an assignment due that night. She got angry at us because we shut the Wi-Fi off at the usual time, and she said she had to rush the assignment and likely got a bad grade for it. She's also complaining that she needed a computer to study and will fail otherwise. I admit I was very firm with Vivian. I sat her down and I told her that she needs to grow up and stop with the excuses and the disrespect. It's unfair to Annabelle and Lucas if she gets an exception from the Wi-Fi rule. If she actually has homework, she needs to pick up the pace. I could do those high school assignments in 20 minutes, and she needs to be self-accountable for not hurrying up with work. She also doesn't need a laptop to study, and her trying to tell me otherwise is ridiculous. Vivian started crying and didn't seem to understand my message at all. My wife claims it's teenage hormones, but it's incredibly frustrating because Vivian cries and shuts down whenever I try to talk to her about something she doesn't want to hear. Several family members, including my wife, are saying I should let Vivian have the extra Wi-Fi because high school is getting harder, and they think all teenagers need the internet for help. But again, I've listed the reasons above why doing that would be wrong. Still, I'm asking on here if I should just do it for my wife and family. Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. I always got homework starting the first day of school, and it was generally hours worth. Either way, she's 17, not a small child. You don't need to control her internet usage. Give her some freedom as she's almost an adult. She's 17, not 8. Come into 2022 era and forget the 80s. Things have changed, and internet isn't like the dial-up or DSL expensive. The rest of our age group have come to realize that with kids now. When she's in the real world and college, she's going to be all over the internet for studying and research. Wow, and I thought me still buying physical books was seen as bad when there's digital books. This is just annoying. High school teacher here. She could absolutely have homework now. Did it ever occur to you that you could just have her show you the assignment? In my class, almost all of our assignments are online, and you need internet access to them. You cannot judge high school today by what you did. It's just a different world. You're the a-hole and might be hearing from teachers soon. As another high school teacher, have you tried reaching out to her teachers since you obviously don't trust your daughter? Easy way to confirm average homework load per class. Either way, you're the a-hole. School has changed a lot just in the last 10 years. You have no idea what your daughter is being asked to do by her teachers. When I was in high school, kids today have a lot more homework and a lot more assignments that require the use of the internet. I'm bewildered and appalled you're so disconnected from this day and age that you don't know that. Plus, she's 17. 1 year away from being able to move out and get away from your micromanaging. You're the a-hole. Educate yourself. Edit. Why don't you do your due diligence as a parent and check and see how much homework she has? Why are you basing your decision on an assumption?